Hello and welcome to today's National 8A Association webinar. The National 8A Association is a nonprofit with the mission to provide education and guidance for all aspiring current and graduate 8As. We are also proud to work with all types of minority small businesses, agencies, large primes, and industry professionals. Before we begin, I'd like to note that this webinar is being recorded and all presentation materials will be posted on our website. If you would like to ask a question, please use the Q&A or email us at events@national8association.org. I'd now like to introduce you all to today's speaker, Kim Koster with Vice President, Product Marketing with Uninet, and Christine Williamson, CPA, PMP Partner of Cohen Resnick. Please join me in welcoming our speakers to deep dive into the 2024 Gauge Report.
Hello, everybody. I am Kim, and I'm going to kick us off. We're going to be talking to you a little bit about the gauge today. We'll share the insights. We have a lot of information to share with you. So much today that we probably can't even get close to touching the amount of information that's in the report. So I do encourage you to download the report and go through that. And just know that Christine and I love to talk about this. It's one of the favorite things I've done over the last 8 years. And we are happy to have you contact us directly and reach out to us. So Christine, do you want to say anything else here?
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, Kim. Thank you, National 8A Association, for having us and supporting the Gauge Report. I'm Christine Williamson. I'm a partner in the government contracting practice. I lead up the advisory and the audit of the practice. I've been doing this. Kim asked me today, how long? 35 years. And government contracting is a very important industry to Cohen Resnick. So thank you for having us all here, Kim.
So I just wanted to say I combined our two, and it's 71 years of GovCon experience. So
That's good
so
stuff. And I learned
that's
something
quality.
new. I still learn something new every day.
Me too. That's great. Okay, so just in case you don't know about Uninet, I'm going to quickly tell you. We have a project-based CRM and ERP that's going to fuel the entire project lifecycle, from actually finding and winning that business, which is very important, to executing it and then closing out your contract. So if you have any challenges or needs for an ERP or a CRM, please reach out. We would love to help you solve your problem. So Christine?
Yes, and Cohen Resnick does advisory, assurance, and tax work. And then we do that within each industry group. And as I mentioned, government contracting is a very important industry group to us. It's not, who you are, but actually who you work for a federal government contractor. And then you can see this full suite of services that we provide, which is really the full life cycle support for a government contractor. So if you need additional support, reach out to us after this. But we do this gauge to give back to the community.
Absolutely. So if you're not familiar with the gauge, we actually do an anonymous survey. We do interviews, and then we take that anonymous information and we pull it together and come up with the gauge itself, which is a series of benchmarks that are honest and unbiased. So they are really the voice of the GovCon industry. The one thing too is that it's also, I believe it's over 50% that are in the C-suite that answered. So it also is the voice of the executives, so where these businesses are going and what the strategy is. We also want it to be a crystal ball, so you can look at what's happening now and then think about what's going to happen in the future, how you might address those challenges, and be able to plan for growth or new compliance regulations that you might have. When Christine and I dreamed up the gauge itself, we decided that we wanted it to be different than any other benchmarking survey or report that was out there for GovCons. So we came up and said we were going to have a theme for each one of the reports. And you can see the themes down there. We started off with budgeting strategies. One of my favorites was leveraging technology, since we're a software company. I love lead by forecasting. That was last year. And this year, it's balancing efficiencies and compliance with AI insights. The coming year, next year, it's going to be, we've already decided on the theme, it's going to be resource management. We do have a lot of particulars about who responded to the Gauge survey that are in the report itself, but the only one I have in this deck today is respondents by annual revenue. So 51% of our respondents were SMB, with 49% being, I learned a new acronym, I think we both did, OTSB, which is other than small business. So we have a really great cross-section of data there and information in different kinds of people answering.
Well, we also, since we're doing this for the National 8A Association, we also break it down by set-aside designations. So once you download the gauge, you'll be able to see that on page 14. And we have small business breakdown, woman-owned, minority-owned, and we have 8A this year of 9%. Last year, it was a little bit higher. It was 12%. But it's real important that, we break down the report so you know about it into these 5 sections. And that gives it's easy for you to look at one section one day, another section the next day, or to mix and match the attributes just to benchmark information for your own company. So these 5 groupings are: first, government contract compliance, which has a lot of audits and ideas on, what would you see in an RFP. Accounting would be more like days sales outstanding and days payable outstanding. Then we get into what Kim loves is utilization and growth. How are you growing? What's your gross profit margins? And then how many proposals are you doing? And then efficiencies comes back to me with indirect rates. And at the beginning of each one of our gauge reports, you'll see the pressures that impact the government contracting industry. And that's just really fun to always put together to think about what are the major items that government contractors are facing. And I think we do a pretty good job at it. You can see we talked about small business procurement emphasis. You see that in the SBA with all the rules that are being changed. The presidential election, how can we pass that and not realize that's going to be a big change to the industry? And then federal technology modernization. A lot of contracts are coming out to modernize systems within the federal government. So we really have a good time at putting this together and hoping that you can use it to improve your business.
All right, so oops, we went a little fall there. That's okay. We both clicked at the same time.
We both clicked. Go ahead, Kim.
All right, so before I talk about what is keeping executives up at night, just let me quickly go through this table with you and the structure of it. So in each one, in all of our data, we can get revenue band. So these are the 4 revenue bands that we have, and I highlighted the ones that were under 25 million here, just so we can highlight that and take a look at that so that you'll know what you're getting. We also have it by employee size. So each one of these questions, we can get that information, and we're happy to provide that to you. We couldn't put all of these tables obviously in the report, but happy to provide any additional information that you might want. So my favorite one here is what's keeping executives up at night. We did see that recruiting and retention was still the number one. It wasn't so big in the 0 to 10 million, but in the 10 to 25 million, I know it was significant. The other piece of what's keeping people up at night for small business, 0 to 10%, 0 to 10 million, was the overall economy. So we know that interest rates were putting burden as well as inflation. So everybody was concerned about that. So that was top of mind. The election has definitely been a worry bead for everybody. Thank God it's going to be over here pretty soon. And the other thing that I found interesting on this chart was cybersecurity. And there was not a whole lot of worry or angst about it. But now that the rule is finalized, I think everybody will start to have to pay attention and worry about what's happening there. So that's what's keeping everybody awake. Now let's move over to AI. So a third of our respondents said that they're using artificial intelligence in some way. What we did find is the prolific users of AI are the $25 to $50 million businesses. They're the ones who are moving out of the programs and the set-asides to now having to compete with much larger companies. So they're having to find ways to be scrappy, to improve their efficiencies and be compliant in different ways. So I thought that was a very good sign and a very good place to be using it and finding those efficiencies. Now, the areas where people are using it the most are business development and marketing. So we see 25% are using it today, with 34 planning on using it in the future. The good thing about that is there's so much that can be done through generative AI in preparing a proposal, looking for FAR clauses, understanding those. That's huge. The laggard here is finance and accounting. And Christine, do you want to talk a little bit about why that's lagging?
Well, accountants, have to verify everything, and we're just not sure about having this computer thing analyze and do predictions for us, and put in a couple assumptions. So for accounting, we're just still trying to figure out the tools, trying to figure out how we can use it appropriately. But with the least numbers of resources that we have, accountants are really going to need to lean into AI because we just can't get the work done unless we do. So the AICPA and many other organizations are looking at AI tools, and then the proper way. As we all know, governance needs to be woven through using AI tools.
And so one thing that's really important when we looked at AI was, how are you using your data and are you confident in your data? So the chart over on the left is, how is your company using data? And we also broke this between people who were using companies using AI and people who were not using AI. And so I'm going to call the people using AI more tech forward. Okay. So tech forward companies then are saying that 72% of the time they're using their data, they're very data driven, they're making decisions with that information. They're also, the tech forward companies on the right are also much more confident in the accuracy of their data. I will say that I believe that data should be treated as an asset, just as any other thing within your company. It is a treasure trove of information, and it's a treasure trove of information for all kinds of different processes and decisions that you're going to make within your organization. All right, Christine,
So,
this speaks to you.
AI has had a positive impact on the growth and profitability of companies that are using it. And so we asked, please rate these areas of positive impact. And it really fell in line with that first chart that Kim showed on marketing and business development, maybe procurement and operations. And so from left to right, these bars actually show the maturity that a company really is having of AI. Content generation. We've all heard it with creating proposals or analyzing market data about your customers. And then the second part is really where the accounting functionality in the accounting department of data analysis and data mining, where you're flagging anomalies and finding errors. This is where the accounting department is really going to improve with using and leaning into AI. And then the third, I'll just say in the middle, is that predictive analysis. And that's where, if you want to change bonuses, if you want to change your customer, if you lose a big customer, do you have a system that will help you do some special forecasting? And the last two are about robotic processes, automation, operating efficiently more in the business, and then project delivery. But you can see that everybody's tinkering, within that 40-50% of the businesses are tinkering with it. And we know this year and into next year, this is really going to drive, because everybody's talking about it.
The one thing we didn't mention is, in the back of each one of these sections, there is
You click.
We're over clicking. Sorry. There's what we call a fast forward, and it's something about our theme in each one of the chapters. So there's quizzes, there's this maturity model, there's tips and tricks, all kinds of different things that you might want to look at and utilize. This is an AI maturity model that we created. If you're familiar with CMMI, it's just a process maturity overall, and it talks about, I don't have time to go through these like we normally would, but this is really centered around people, getting your people trained and enabled, the processes, having the processes that are in place to make sure that you can run it and that you're compliant, and then having the right tools. So having different tools that make it easier to use AI, having an AI tool like Uninet, we use one that is targeted to marketing. Okay, so so there's many different tools that are out there, and make sure you get the right one for yourself. In this one, we also added culture because I think culture is huge. So you can see that. I think it's down on the bottom where each one of it talks about the culture, each one of the levels, and that's big. Making sure that you have executive buy-in and buy-in from your entire workforce. That's going to be huge to make that happen. The other thing is, Christina and I were talking about this the other day. You can use this model for any kind of process or anything
Yeah.
that you're wanting to improve. So we were talking about it from a compliance perspective. If you have any questions about that and how you might use this for compliance, you'll see Christine and my email at the end of the presentation. And please feel free to reach out to us.
Sounds good. All right, we are at the mid-mark here of our presentation, Kim, already, and I'm going to move the slide. And we're going to start with our first section. Now, remember, I told you there were 5 sections. Please download the report and take a look at it. What we're going to do is kind of peruse through here for you to explain what's in the sections. So we ask each year 50 to 60 questions. It could take you anywhere between 20 to 30 minutes. We have, over thousands of contributors. And so one of them that was new this year was time spent on compliance. And this is really an important metric because, just going back to that AI maturity slide and using that for any type of area, where are you spending compliance and where aren't you? But it was quite interesting that, we had large numbers on each end of it, where some companies really spending a lot and others where they're only spending 0 to 10 hours. So it's something good where you could even ask some of these questions to your own company and learn a lot as you're determining your new strategies for next year. In addition, we asked about AI as a component of your compliance efficiencies, and what are you doing to be more compliant? Are you looking at your policies and procedures? And every year is different. I mean, some years you might be exploring those policies and procedures. The next year you might be looking at your tools. We had a lot of companies say that they are looking at policies and procedures, and I think as a government contractor, you really need to, that's one of the main things you're audited on, depending on what business systems you have. And really for any audit, the first question they're going to do is ask, where's your policies and procedures and how up to date are they on there? And then the second one, reviewing those project-based tools. I think you should constantly be looking at your tools because they're constantly improving. I know Uninet is constantly improving because of new technology. So take a look at that and look at what you're doing to gain efficiencies with your AI. Okay, so as small business, and usually the 8As, could be small business, some of the items that are really challenging you in an audit, of course, most of the audits are, if it's a government audit, they're probably coming in to look at your indirect rates. How are you building up your cost? So that was our highest number, and that usually is within the high. It's in between timekeeping and rates every year. But adequate business systems have really moved up. And that kind of goes back to the policies and procedures, because you've got to be making sure your people are trained, understand how to handle flexibly priced contracts, and have project-based systems like Uninet to keep you having an adequate accounting system, and then be able to do your estimates or do your purchasing. All right, so we asked folks about what type of audits have they undergone within the last year. And you see a lot of these audits here, incur costs. You've got the 6 business systems, which are woven within here. You can take a look at, have you had a labor floor check, provisional billing rates to bill with the next year. But then we circle where there's a lot of companies, at smaller levels where they're not seeing those audits yet. But as you get larger, you're more than likely, unless you're all fixed price, you're going to see these type of audits. So you can't, eat the whole apple all at one time, but I would, if I was you, look at these and kind of grade yourself through each one if you had to go through any one of these type of audits just to see what should you be working on in the coming years. And then these are the 6 business systems I just mentioned. And we've shown here the last 3 years, plus the revenue, plus the NAICS code. Then what kind of data usage are they? Are they very driven data, or are they using AI? This is a great chart to kind of just take a look at what's happening with companies that have to have approved business systems. But even if you are small, I mean, you're seeing, we circled the 74% at the 25 to 50 million. 74% of them saw an accounting system that had to be reviewed. And then purchasing, right beyond that. But, it just goes to show that, trying to, look at these type of systems and figure out where are you, is very important, that you probably will more than likely see one of a requirement in an RFP. And so that is our section on government contract compliance. And I think I'm going to continue to work on our accounting. All right, so let me go through that. I think we're doing good on time. I'll make sure I'll pass it over to Kim because she's going to do utilization and growth. Take a look at this compared to your business and look at, how are you stacking up with net profits? Really, that's, minus all of your direct costs and your indirect costs. What is that net profit margin? Gross margin, we look at before the indirects, and then net margin, we look at after the indirects. So you can see that some of our smaller companies may have been reporting low margin. And I know it's been tough the last couple of years. It's been tough to get the right size, especially with inflation, getting good people to work for you because salaries have gone up. So this is a good analysis of all companies here, but take a look at the gauge and you can get a little more information at the lower levels. All right, Kim, I'll turn it over to utilization.
Yep. So utilization is all about project management and resource management. I said that the executives were my favorite. What was keeping executives up was my favorite. I lied. This is my favorite chart right here, which is the FTEs. So what we did see is, if you look at the little green arrows up, what we have seen is that these particular organizations are all up with their staff. So that's telling us that the resources are not as scarce as they were before. We did see that same reduction in what was keeping executives up at night. The reason I love this chart so much is because it really will give you some indications as to if you're growing, what might you need. So if you're going from a $24 million annual revenue to $45 million annual revenue, you can just get an idea of what that might do to your FTEs. So I love this. I think it's very valuable, and I hope you find it valuable.
We got a lot of questions on that one.
Yeah, we do, and it's really great. We also ask about project management offices, or PMOs. We have seen an uptick over the years in centralized. That means that there is one organization that controls the policies and procedures for all projects, and then they're tailored. And then we have decentralized, which is maybe you're a small company, you've got one fixed price contract and one larger contract. And so you would only have your PMO around that particular project. But the one thing I can tell you is that small business does not use PMO as much as the larger businesses do, but it is definitely something to me that's a differentiator. It does a lot of different things. It trains project managers, and it helps make sure that you're executing those projects the same across the board. And I think that's huge. So we also ask, what were you doing to gain efficiencies in project management? Again, it's creating policies and procedures. Again, that was soundingly the biggest thing that people were doing. But 35% down below are either working on their PMO or starting a PMO. And then we have ditching spreadsheets as well as artificial intelligence to drive those efficiencies. All of those would definitely help with project execution. All right, so, and I'm sorry we're having to go so fast, but we had so much to say. Now we're going to move into growth. And this is going to be about business development and marketing. So what we're seeing and the biggest challenge for business development teams is lack of resources. And that's definitely true for smaller businesses. This is a place where I really think AI could help smaller businesses to produce proposals quicker and make sure that they're getting all the requirements into their proposal. There's a whole lot of other things here as far as not having the right tools. That's something that's very easy to fix. Just to have a CRM system or to get that market intel system to help you find the right opportunities. Overall, win rates have improved, but they're still relatively low in my opinion. So if you look at this chart, and on the actual win rate, 60% are winning less than 50% of the time. So that's big. And we're also seeing that smaller companies are the largest section of winning less than 25% of the time. So it's very important to have those processes and procedures in place. And you may want to look at a capture process, whether that is 9 steps, 5 steps, or 3 steps, but a very meticulous way that you work through whether or not you're going to bid on a contract, whether or not it's target smart for you. And it can be, like I said, it can be a simple process, but it's a process that I think needs to be in place. And obviously, small business does that less than larger business, but I think it's a great way for small business to start to really figure out how they want to pursue and what they want to pursue. All right, Christine.
All right, rounding it out, efficiencies. And a lot of what the title of this gauge was navigating compliance and efficiencies. So the one area that we all talk about, in addition to those full-time equivalents, is our wrap rates. Our wrap rates continue to decline over the years. And so, it's good to take a look at your wrap rate. I know everyone's working on budgets, but take a look at the gauge report and look at what these wrap rates are. We break it down within the book on some additional information. So take a look at that as you're budgeting. I know a lot of companies are looking at whether or not their G&A base is being calculated correctly and what works the best for them. If you have a lot of subcontractors, you may do value add. So that's something we asked about in the gauge as well. And most, say that about 30% companies were using value add. If you are seeing that you're going to have a lot of subcontractors, it's something that you might want to look into. We also have information on the gauge about what type of rates do you have, whether it's function or by location or by customer, or maybe you just have a single rate. So there's a lot of information. And as you're doing your budgeting here at the end of the year, I'm finding a lot of companies are taking a look at, should we have a lot of rates? Should we combine our rates? Really, what should we be doing to make us as competitive and as easy to manage the rates as possible? So we just want to thank you all. Kim and I, here our email addresses are. I know we have had a small group, sounds like about 5 or 6 of you that joined on. But hopefully we've given you some good information to think about for your business. And as we both said, we're both available to be reached out to about questions that you have. And I think we're going to turn it back over to Brianne.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Kim and Christine, for a great presentation. As a reminder, this webinar is being recorded and presentation materials will be posted on our website, along with all of our past webinars by the end of the day. If you have any questions on our organization or our initiatives or upcoming events, please reach out to us via email or phone with the contact details we have listed here. Thank you all again for joining us today. This concludes our webinar, and we hope you join us next month. Have a great day.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you, guys.